How often do you stop to see how much beauty there is in the world? G.K. Chesterton has this great image where he talks about the childlike ability to say, do it again, do it again. And he says, maybe the reason the sun keeps rising every morning is because God never gets tired of sunrises. Maybe the reason there's so many daisies in the world that all look alike is because God saw how beautiful the first one was and just kept shouting, do it again, never tiring of the beauty of each one. The world is bursting with beauty, but we miss so much of it. The heavens declare the glory of God through nebulae and galaxies and every kind of planet, and I sleep through it. Against all odds, God grows a flower in my driveway, and I spray it with Roundup. Every person reflects the beauty of God. You reflect the beauty of God. God can see in you the full glorious beauty, not just of who you are, but of who you were meant to be. You're beautiful. The world is beautiful. You're full of potential. The world is full of potential. Some people look around and all they can see is the brokenness. And let's be honest, the world is full of brokenness. It runs through all creation, whether it's natural disasters or invasive plant species or the lion eating the lamb or the havoc wrought by all humanity. All of creation falls short of the glory God intends for us. And we human beings are right there in the brokenness. We're divided at every level by nationalism and racism and tribalism and gender issues and economics or just what your favorite sports team is. I could quote you many statistics about the fallenness of humanity, but I'm just going to quote you one. Every 10 seconds, a child under the age of 5 dies from easily preventable causes. By the time this session is over, 350 children will be dead. If you stick around long enough for dessert, that number will climb to 500. 500 little lives lost just because we can't figure out how to share, can't figure out how to help each other. So the world is both broken and beautiful. It's like looking at a piece of broken pottery. You can look at a broken piece and you can find beauty in it, even in its brokenness, but you can see that it wasn't meant for this, that this isn't the plan. And that's exactly the story the Bible tells us. Genesis tells us that this is all the result of our estrangement from God, that we have broken off relationship from the one who created us, the one who sustains us, the one who loves us. But the good news is that God has been at work throughout history to restore the relationship between creation and creator, to reconcile us to God and to one another. God's mission is to take the brokenness of all creation and put it back together. This is why Jesus came, to restore us to the beauty we were meant for, to restore our relationship to God, to bring us back into an abundant life. He does this through his birth, his life, his death, and ultimately his resurrection. In this video series, we're going to look at 6 different ways that we might be experiencing this brokenness in our lives today, seeking first reconciliation in our own lives and then exploring how we can participate in God's reconciliation in the world around us. As we go through these various forms of alienation, pay attention to what might resonate with you in your own life, because later we're going to pick one area to explore more deeply. Today, we're going to start with the more interior alienations. Alienation from God, alienation from ourselves, alienation within our families. What might alienation from God look like? Well, the most obvious place to start is this. Have you put yourself at the mercy of Jesus? This idea of mercy and grace is at the heart of the Christian faith. Every religion in the world emphasizes a transformed life. That is, you should live in a certain way, and Christianity is no exception. But the thing that makes Christianity different from everything else is that Christianity says you're not able to fix what ails you on your own. The burden of fixing it doesn't fall on you, it falls on God. And God has fixed what's wrong in the person of Jesus. But God won't do this in your life unless you ask. The thing is, there's more to asking than just saying some magic words. Putting yourself at Jesus' mercy means turning over your life to him, saying, my life is yours. If you haven't done that, then none of the rest of what we're going to talk about matters. So that's the big alienation. But every Christian has little alienations from God. Sometimes it's direct, like maybe you're angry with God over something that did or didn't happen in your life. Maybe you've gotten a raw deal in life and you feel like that God is to blame, even if it's only through inaction. All of us are shaped by our experiences, especially within our immediate families and especially in our early years. Our parents are human beings, and as such, they always fall short of God's intentions. But perhaps one or both of your parents fell short in a more spectacular way, and that has shaped your view of God for the worse. But more often, the alienations are indirect. Most commonly in our culture, it's just busyness, it's distraction. We don't mean to ignore God. There's just so many other things going on in our life that there just isn't that much space for God. We make room for God on Sundays and for small group, and there's time. All these other things that fill your life are alienating you from God. Maybe there are areas in your life that you're hiding from God. You know, the story of the fall starts with envy and pride, but the thing that actually separates Adam and Eve from God is their own shame. If you're trying to hide things from God, I've got news for you. It's not working the way you think it is. God sees everything. You're not hiding what you've done. You're hiding away yourself. You're shutting yourself off from God. All of these things are examples of ways we can allow something to come between us and God. When that happens, we're cutting ourselves off from the only one who can reconcile us with all the things that are broken in our lives, with the world and with God and with others and even with ourselves. Think about that. You can be alienated from yourself. What do I even mean by alienation from yourself? Well, that's the second big alienation we're going to talk about today, alienation from yourself. Do you like who you are? Do you believe that you're worthy of love? Or do you feel like in order for others to really like you, you're going to have to earn it? Or maybe fake it? You know, put on masks, pretend to be someone different from who you really are? Earlier I stated that every person is created a reflection of the beauty of God, that when looking at you, God sees not only the beauty of who you already are, but the beauty of who you are meant to be. That in spite of our alienation from God, in spite of our shortcomings and all the ways we let God down and others down and let ourselves down, that in spite of all that, God sees you just as you are and loves you beyond your wildest imagination, longs to be with you, longs to make you whole again, loves you so much that Jesus died just so that you would have the chance to be reconciled to God. But because we're broken and live in a broken world and we're raised by broken people, we come to doubt that we matter, doubt that we're worthy, doubt that we're lovable. When you can't see the beauty of who you are and who God meant you to be, you're alienated from yourself. So, what are the signs of this self-alienation? Do you struggle with vulnerability? Are you afraid that if others see the real you, they might reject you? Do you feel like you have to pretend a lot in order to be accepted by others? Do you feel like you have to do something to earn people's love and respect? These are all signs that you're alienated from yourself. Another sign is having a critical spirit towards others. Why are people quick to criticize and find fault? Emotionally healthy people don't gain a sense of worth from putting others down. Why do we put people down? What are we trying to prop up through criticism? If there are people in your life that you disdain, it's not really about them at all. It's not them who you question. It's not them who you are uncertain about. It's not them who you disdain. You don't know who you are. The third area today is alienation within your family. Life is full of storms, like relationship problems, or trouble with your boss, or difficulty making ends meet financially, or your body's just failing you. Your family is supposed to be a place of refuge, this safe harbor where you're still going to get some wind and rain, but you're not going to get the giant waves that wreck your ship. But what happens when the Kraken lives in your harbor? What happens when instead of finding shelter from the storm, your home becomes the place where jealousy and criticism and mistrust and defensiveness and deception live? If your home is no longer your safe place, obviously the biggest difficulty in our homes is often in our marriages. Marriage difficulties have become so commonplace and the damage they wreak so profound that sometimes we overlook many other kinds of alienation within the family. Alienation in the home is not just marriage problems. Maybe you have a parent who is so full of pain in their own life that they were unable or unwilling to be the kind of parent that God intended. Maybe you have an adult sibling whom you rarely speak to. Maybe you have a cousin whose political views are so wrong you just don't want to be around them anymore. Or worse, when's the last time you had a meaningful conversation with your kids? You get home from work every day and you just need a little time to unwind, and then you've got to knock one or two things off your to-do list, and then everybody's off to your rooms. And you live with them and you love them, but you're not even sure if you really know each other anymore. Divorce isn't the only kind of alienation in the modern family. How do these things happen? God created us to be relational, to be creatures who love and need love and live and work and play together. And this is supposed to happen first and foremost within our families. We're supposed to look out for each other. We're supposed to look out for their well-being. But somewhere along the way, we get more and more immersed in our own interests and our own needs. And it might be something big, like a huge fight over how to spend money, or it might be something small, like I'm tired and I'd just rather watch TV than talk right now. And the next thing you know, you're still living together, but alienation is living right there with you. Or you find yourself less and less involved with your extended family. Or you just stop communicating with people you love because it's just easier not to. I'm from a broken home. It took me a decade to get past that. Eventually, the wounds heal, but the scars never go away. So I get how complicated family relations can be, and if you're in a rough place, I'm not going to pretend that a good small group discussion is going to patch everything up. But I will say this. First, your family is worth fighting for. And second, if two people are committed to reconciliation, then it can be done. God is a reconciling God and wants to surround you with those who can help bring that about. So if your marriage is in trouble, you're probably well aware of that. But what about the more subtle kinds of alienation in our homes? Have you allowed things that are less important than your family come between you and your family? Because these little alienations are trying to creep in, trying to gently ease you apart. So those are the inner alienations. The big one is alienation from God, and then we have alienation from ourselves, that is, who God made us to be, and alienation within our families. All these will suck the spiritual life out of you. But the good news is that God is a reconciling God and has come to reconcile with us and to reconcile us to ourselves and to others. In 2 Corinthians, Paul tells us this. So then, if anyone is in Christ, that person is a part of the new creation. The old things have gone away, and look, new things have arrived. All of these new things are from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ, and who gave us the ministry of reconciliation. In other words, God was reconciling the world to himself through Christ by not counting people's sins against them. He has trusted us with this message of reconciliation. So we are ambassadors who represent Christ. God is negotiating with you through us. We beg you, as Christ representatives, be reconciled to God. Next time we're going to explore some additional areas of alienation. Then in the following sessions, we'll look at God's work of reconciliation in our lives and what it means to have a ministry of reconciliation in the world. Thanks for joining us.